Now it's time to cover how we're going to not get infected. And this is going to be covered under our standard precautions. First of all, we're going to identify potentially infectious materials. We know what those fluids can and are and what they can be. Two, we're going to isolate each of those fluids. Treat every fluid you find, even if it's dry now, as a potentially infectious material. If it's wet, it's yucky. Don't touch it without personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment could include the gloves, a face shield, CPR barrier with a one-way valve. We're going to discuss those in more detail as well, but they should be outlined in your employment exposure control plan. The employer's exposure control plan does several things for you. First of all, it tells you what types of job duties within that workplace are going to have a high or higher risk of infectious contact, and which people could be allowed to get not only additional training, but the right equipment to protect yourself and the hepatitis B vaccination. Secondly, the exposure control plan is going to outline for you the right steps to take if and when you do encounter blood or blood product in your workplace or another hazardous material. It's going to tell you things like various levels of risk for each employee that may have an occupational exposure, the training requirements so that you know what to do to protect yourself, work practice controls. These are things that the employee does to protect themselves from getting an unnecessary exposure, like you're going to wash your hands after every biohazard cleanup process, even if it's not on your skin, as an example. Engineering controls are the things the employer puts in your hand for you to use. Examples of that is the soap itself, the gloves that you're wearing to protect yourself, the face shield, the goggles, the gowns, the booties, the lab coats, the hair nets, the head coverings. It's going to include things like a sharps container, biohazard bags, the actual disinfecting solution you're going to use to actually get rid of the contaminated waste. And then the procedure for an exposure incident. When we follow these steps, we're going to optimize our protection against any unnecessary exposure and infection we might encounter as part of our job duties.